What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at this week's edition of Raw, as well as some of the latest news, including Charlotte Flair test positive for COVID-19, a huge Hall of Fame inductee has been leaked, bad news for Retribution, an AEW Star is injured, and much more. Now, as always, we aren't recapping the matches, but just providing you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, Rhea Ripley versus Asuka. Now, not only was it good to see Rhea Ripley get a spot on the main roster, it was even better to see her quickly inserted into WrestleMania 37 against Asuka. The Raw Women's Champion needs a good challenger, and while Charlotte Flair is always a good opponent, it seems like more fans are looking for something different right now. The only problem with Ripley challenging Asuka is that the WWE put little effort into building up the match. The lack of the build hurts Ripley's character and makes the Raw Women's Championship even more meaningless. Number 2, Peyton Royce versus Asuka. Now, speaking of Asuka, her match with Peyton Royce was fantastic and showed the remarkable chemistry between the two wrestlers. The match suggests Royce is ready for the main event, regardless of how poorly the WWE has handled her singles push. Like the Ripley versus Asuka match, this one could have meant a lot more with some build-up, but the WWE continues to show incredible laziness when it comes to booking, particularly the women's division. Number 3, AJ Kofi goodness. Whoa, wait a minute. AJ Kofi greatness. Last night's AJ Kofi encounter was the kind of moment where two wrestlers make magic, both in the ring and on the microphone. Now, although a bout between the two seems like a guaranteed hit, who would have believed just how good things would turn out? The WWE is likely committed to the New Day versus AJ and Omos at Mania, but they need to seriously consider a feud between the Dreadlock Dynamo and the Phenomenal One sometime soon. But that was just the good. What about the bad? Number 1, Sheamus on a losing streak. Now, Sheamus' losing streak is getting downright ridiculous, especially for someone who has had some high-profile matches, including a feud with former WWE Champion and 2 matches with current champion Lashley. Sheamus has been booked poorly for some time, but the last 2 months suggested he might be getting a push, especially when he began feuding with Drew McIntyre and came close to winning the championship at this year's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. However, the Celtic Warrior's repeated losses are doing nothing for any kind of push, and he looks like more of a loser than ever. Number 2, Don't Hurt the Hurt Business Part 2. Why is the WWE disrupting its most successful faction in several years? Fans of the Hurt Business have got to be furious that it seems like the group is splintering. They had just teased tension between Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, but last night's Raw hinted that Bobby Lashley is unhappy with both Benjamin and Alexander. Vince McMahon is notorious for breaking up tag teams, and now it appears he's going to break up a faction that's gotten over on its own thanks to hard work and a remarkable chemistry. There is zero reason for splitting up this group just yet. Number 3, what the hell has happened to The Miz? Oh, what a difference a month can make. The Miz was champion for 2 weeks, and now he's wearing a bunny suit in order to put over his program with Bad Bunny. It's bad enough the WWE can't book The Miz correctly as a babyface, but now it appears they can't even book him as a cocky heel. Fans have known for some time that Bad Bunny would wrestle The Miz at Mania, but the build-up has been awful, and even worse, it looks like they're going for a singles match rather than a tag team match. This is a disaster waiting to happen, as Bad Bunny could not only embarrass himself with a poor showing at Mania, but embarrass the entire wrestling industry. The WWE has traditionally put celebrities into tag team matches with accomplished wrestlers in order to hide their in-ring shortcomings, so why are they going with a singles match is mind-boggling. With any luck, the WWE's plan has always been to make this a tag team match, and that the single stipulation will see John Morrison's presence change to a tag team. Number 4, no plans for Jeff at WrestleMania? WrestleMania 37 is beginning to take shape, with several matches listed for each night. But one person who isn't on the show is Jeff Hardy, who just signed a new deal with the WWE, but has been booked as little more than enhancement talent. If Jeff doesn't get any spot at this year's Mania, and no, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal doesn't count, it's further evidence that the only reason they signed him was to keep him away from AEW, and that he has no future in the company. Number 5, train sound effects? Did Mr. McMahon buy a train set? Has Linda been reading him Thomas the Tank Engine? How else to explain the train sound effects for Braun Strowman, a character who is supposed to be a monster among men, but is always being booked as a goof? The train noises had us flashing back to the days of Big Daddy Cool Diesel's awful entrance video, and dare we say it, even Tugboat's entrance music. They need to drop this part of Strowman's entrance and focus on his push, rather than adding stupid sound effects. Number 6, redundant rematch. Last night's Braun vs Elias match was unnecessary and an example of Raw's rotten writing. Their match at Fastlane was pure filler, and yet they felt the need to stage a rematch the next night on Raw. The entire purpose of Elias facing Braun was to further the Strowman vs McMahon match at Mania, which is fine, but this could and should have been done in one match, with Shane attacking Braun with his crutch and things proceeding from there. Instead, they had Braun crush Elias at Fastlane, with Shane out of sight and out of mind. The payoff match featuring Shane's attack should have either happened at Fastlane or Raw. This is similar to how they booked Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair in 2 women's tag matches in order to build their animosity for each other when one match could have easily told a story. This is a lazy booking and a reminder that the WWE is lazy and or incompetent when it comes to booking Raw's undercard. Now, there's nothing ugly about Raw, but there were far too many bad segments, especially with WrestleMania just less than 3 weeks away. They showed how lazy they are when it comes to promoting programs that they have money written all over them, such as Peyton vs Asuka. Now, we talked about their ass booking at Fastlane, with the main show's first 3 matches being utter rubbish, while the rest of the show was fantastic. The question isn't whether the WWE can produce high quality wrestling, the question is why they're so inconsistent. But what did you guys think of Raw? Let us know in the comments down below. Now, let's move on to the news. Now, our first story looks at Charlotte testing positive for COVID. Our fans wondering why Charlotte Flair has been incognito have now got their answer, as she's tested positive for COVID-19. Flair's absence from the WrestleMania 37 poster led to speculation what happened when it previously looked like they were going to book her against Raw Women's Champion Asuka at this year's Showcase of the Immortals. Charlotte tweeted to her fans, "I know everyone has been wondering where I've been. I tested positive for COVID and I've been home resting. The question now is when Flair will be cleared to return." Charlotte's fiancé Andrade replied to her tweet saying, "4 more days and you can clear. I hope you go back to the WrestleMania poster." However, Charlotte's proud papa Ric Flair tweeted, "Praying for a speedy recovery. You set the bar so high. WrestleMania will not be the same without the Queen." Our fans will have to wait and see whether Charlotte's return for Mania or the WWE gives her the night off. While they could put her into the Rhea Ripley vs Asuka match, some fans could see this as Flair being overpushed again and stealing the spotlight from a new star. What do you guys think they should do if Charlotte is cleared for WrestleMania? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, a huge Hall of Fame inductee has been leaked. Now, the Hall of Fame is set to take place on 6th April, and it will include the inductees of 2020 as well as new inductees for the class of 2021. Now, we already have 2 inductees that have been confirmed, both Molly Holly and Eric Bischoff, but it seems that Fightful Select now has leaked a new inductee, and it's a big one. According to the site, Fightful has learned of WWE plans to induct a new Hall of Famer at this year's ceremony, an ECW, WWE, WCW, and TNA veteran. Rob Van Dam is slated to be added to the 2021 Hall of Fame class. This is incredible news, as Rob Van Dam is one of the most talented wrestlers to ever step foot in the wrestling ring. This one has been long overdue, and we're so glad that it's happening. What are your thoughts on RVD entering the Hall of Fame? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, major plans scrapped for Retribution. Has the WWE finally put Retribution out of its misery, sparing the fans from the once promising group's continued bad booking every week on Raw? Well, they seem to have split up at Fastlane after its members walked out on the group's leader Mustafa Ali. There was no sign of the group on Raw, with many pundits suggesting this means Retribution is done and will never be seen again. However, what does the future hold for the group's members T-Bar, Mace, Slapjack and Reckoning? Not to mention Ali, who's been working through an injury since December last year. According to Cultaholic's Mitch Wadden, the WWE had originally planned on splitting Retribution up at WrestleMania. It appears Ali's decision to continue working despite his injury was to allow the stable that big moment on the grandest stage of them all. However, WWE made the decision to bring the disbandment forward to Fastlane. Meltzer thinks there doesn't seem to be much hope for the group, commenting their chances were slim, but even worse for the 2 particular wrestlers, T-Bar and Mace. "I don't like their chances. Nope, I don't like their chances at all." At this point, fans will likely have to wait until the WWE makes its post-WrestleMania cuts to see if there's any future for any of the former Retribution wrestlers. And finally, an AEW star is injured. There's bad news for AEW star Pac, who is reportedly dealing with an ankle injury. Dave Meltzer recently reported on the situation, noting Pac has an ankle injury, so they're bringing back Laredo Kid. Pac missed most of 2020 thanks to the corona apocalypse, and it's unknown when he'll return from his ankle injury. We wish him a speedy recovery. But there you have it, folks. The good, the bad, and the downright ugly from this week's Raw, as well as the wildest wrestling news stories. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.